coming up on Chopper's political podcast. I think my kids are pretty right-wing. I have a 4-year-old who thinks being vegetarian is a very bad thing.
Welcome back to Chopper's political podcast with me, Christopher Hope, GB News' political editor. Weekly, I bring you the very best guests, gossip and stories from our dungeon here in the heart of Westminster. The Conservative Party conference is nearly upon us, and 4 Tory MPs will be facing the party's members, trying to convince them that they've got it what it takes to replace Rishi Sunak as Conservative Party leader and make their party electable again after the 2024 general election disaster. I'm going to call it that and be honest about it. Now, today I'm joined by Kemi Badenoch, the final of the 6 candidates standing, Tory MP for North West Essex. Kemi, welcome to Chopper's political podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Did I say your surname correctly?
You said it perfectly.
I'm glad I did. Why can you be Tory leader?
Because I want us to focus on the future. Our party needs to be renewed. We spent 14 years in government, very difficult years. We didn't get everything that we should have got done. But the party now needs a refresh. And I think it needs somebody who can take it forward, not be stuck in the past. And I believe that person is me. And
you're running to be leader of the Tory party or Prime Minister, or is it the same thing? Or do you grow into one after getting the first job?
So I am an engineer. And you start with the end goal in mind. The end goal is not about me becoming Prime Minister. It's about getting the Conservatives into government. But in order to do that, you need to have a credible opposition and you need to have a party that is fighting fit to hold the current government to account. That is what I want to do. I think I would be an effective leader of the opposition. I think I would have lots of cut through. Even when I was a junior minister, I was able to make the weather, get on the news.
You certainly were.
And tell our story. And that is what I want to do
Labour
now.
don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber, I think, as an observer. You regularly top members' polls, we know that, but you're second amongst the MPs. Is there a problem there? You know, you've alluded to it, you're spiky, you take on fights, you have a battle with journalists, you don't like the questioning. You know, is that why MPs find you a bit less collegiate than other candidates?
No, not at all. I am very spiky with Labour. People say that I pick fights. I never pick fights. But if people bring a fight, I will defend our turf. I am a Conservative and I see myself as a champion for Conservatives. It doesn't matter who it is. If I think you're attacking my beliefs, my party, our principles, then I will defend that.
So you know what you believe in is the point.
Absolutely. But with MPs, yes, some of them do say that. So I don't hang around in the bars in the evenings.
You've got a young family.
Yes, I've got a young family. So my family, family is one of my principles. Family first. It's more about them than about the job. And for me, becoming leader of the party is really a way to help deliver a country that is going to be good for my children, your listeners' children, your readers' children. Mm-hmm. That's what it's about. It's not about my own personal ambitions, because actually being the leader of a political party is very tough. You look at most of the leaders we've had, and they often get kicked out in very brutal ways, whether it's Mrs. Thatcher, right the way down to Boris, or
because your party can, and it's harder for other parties to interact.
So it's not an easy thing to do, but I think that I would be able to do what is critical, which is get us back into government by having a useful 5 years where we rebuild our party, renew and refresh our policy offer, say sorry for what we got wrong, because we did get some things wrong, otherwise we'd still be in government now.
Well, let's come on to your record. Just when was the moment you thought I can be PM? Because you surprised us all, didn't you, back in 2022 when you did so well from nowhere. I mean, no one saw you thinking of standing, then you were standing, and suddenly you were the fresh young thing then. You still are fresh and young.
Thank you. Of course. Still fresh.
Still
young.
Youngish. Yes. No. But what's the moment at which you look in the mirror and go, there looks the Prime Minister? So
a couple of things happened 2 years ago. Probably the most significant thing, which I don't often talk about, is that my dad died right at the beginning of 2022. And to me, that was the worst possible thing that could happen in my life. My dad is one of my heroes still is, even though he's no longer around. And I often found that when I was telling stories and anecdotes, it'd be, well, my dad showed me how to do this, or my dad taught me that, and my dad said this, and so on. And it felt like the foundation had been pulled away from under me. But it also meant that I became less risk averse. I would never, ever, in January 2022, just before he died, if someone had said, you're going to be running for leader in 6 months' time, I would have said, that's completely crazy. That's potty. Why would I want to do that? We have a great prime minister in Boris. Why would anyone want to do that? And then when all of the stuff happened that led to Boris leaving, I looked at the people who were going forwards. And two of them had actually been my secretaries of state, Liz and Rishi, and I'd worked with them very closely. And I thought, I don't think that either of this will work. What I'll do is I will run, and then I'm not going to do well, but then people will want me on their team, and that way I'll be able to help shape things. So then it wasn't really about becoming prime minister. It was about being listened to, because my fundamental analysis, which hasn't changed, is that the system is broken and we need to fix the system. And what's happened with Liz and with Rishi is that they keep trying to work within a broken system. If something's broken, it doesn't matter how hard you work, it still won't deliver. And so I was very, very positively surprised by how well I did. I thought I would go out early.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Michael Gove got involved.
Yes, he did.
That was a big moment.
He backed me. That was something that was very unexpected, but it meant that we had momentum. But it also meant that by the time I left the contest, all the deals had been done, all the jobs had been taken, and so I wasn't able to have that influence. But because I did that then, now I think, yes, maybe I can win this time. So this time I will present my offer. This broken system needs an engineer to fix it. I'm an engineer. We keep having lawyers and, journalists and people.
No more journalists from the country. I'm withdrawing myself from that conversation.
People who use words rather than people who know how to build.
Yeah.
I built, and that's why I want to do this.
That's striking. My dad died in April. I'm wearing his tie and his watch. And it does change just as a person.
It does.
He'd be proud of you, would he?
He had a brain tumor, so he was proud of me becoming a minister. And he said to me, I wouldn't say exactly what he said, sort of the last words before the lucidity disappeared.
Yes.
Just how inspirational he thought I was, and it was quite moving. And I still have that with me.
That's an amazing moment, though, isn't it? Yeah. And now look at you. I mean, 2 years later, you ran a department, and now you're running for office.
He would have been very proud.
Yeah, I bet he would. You mentioned that you're punchy. You're portrayed as a divisive character by some people. But is that also a strength, possibly, in terms of you're going to be, what you believe in, and you're not going to take any nonsense? Maybe that's what the members want to hear from.
Well, I think that people tend to use your strengths as your weaknesses. So I'm very straight talking. People say that's rude because I don't couch my language in all sorts of flowery stuff. I want people to understand what I'm saying. So
in clear terms, like engineer.
Exactly. Okay. The divisiveness is, in my view, conviction. That if you believe in something very strongly, then you should say what you believe and try and see it through. And people who call that divisive, in my view, will go wherever the wind blows. And this is how we ended up losing. We kept talking right and governing left. We'd say things, but we would do something different because, we don't want this group of people to be angry, or we want to please those people. We ended up pleasing no one. You need to be able to show the direction of travel. You need to be able to show your vision and get people to follow, not just ask people, what do you want, and then tell them what they want to hear. I don't do that. And that's what people don't like, that I don't tell them exactly what they want to hear. And I tell them the truth.
And talking right on immigration, governing left, allowing lots of people in. What's your list of apologies? You mentioned earlier saying sorry. I think saying sorry is important. Yes. Other candidates not in the race anymore won't say sorry for things. I thought that was surprising. I think people want to hear some contrition from your party.
I am sorry. And
what for?
One of the things that I'm most sorry for is assuming that somebody else was working it out. So we would stand on a manifesto, we're going to cut immigration, the party leader has said that. And then you go on and you be an MP and you do your thing. In my case, I was education minister in the Treasury local government. And you assume that someone else is sorting it out. And it turned out that nobody was. Everybody was expecting somebody else to do the job. And I think not asking more questions, not pushing more, was a failure on the part of all of us. I found out at the same time as your viewers found out what the figures had been in the run-up to 2022. That
net migration.
Yes, the net migration figures.
Those ONS figures, you weren't to know them, were you?
No, but
well, the Home Office might have an idea.
Yeah, well, exactly. So people in the Home Office, and I don't just mean Home Office ministers, but all of the infrastructure, the people infrastructure in the Home Office should have been giving regular updates. Instead, Parliament and the public find out, and we're thinking, what on earth has happened? And my view is that there is a lot of naivety in the Home Office about immigration. I come from an immigrant background, and I often find it how striking it is that people outside this country understand our immigration system much better than people in the country, because of course we don't use it. British people don't use the immigration system. No. Foreigners use it. So the loopholes are known to people outside the country, whereas we here are constantly naive. There is a lot of, illegality. I say even in legal immigration, people fake certificates. People will say things. Polygamous families come in bringing in lots of dependents. People say they're coming to study when they're not. And we just need to wise up to that and stop being naive.
Is that a cultural thing in maybe the Home Office? I mean, if you're in charge of the whole country, you can start shaking the tree a bit and making it happen.
Well, yes. I think everything that works starts with having good people. And there's no point making promises. People say, why won't you promise this? Why won't you promise that? And I say, you don't start with the promises. You start with the principles. What kind of country do you want to have? What kind of Home Office do you want to have? The people in the Home Office, in my view, don't really want to do immigration. I've met many of them.
Which is alarming.
They've come from refugee charities. They want to help look after refugees. They want to take care of asylum seekers. They want to be nice. They don't want to do that horrible stuff. So if those are the people that you ask to enforce borders, it doesn't matter if you've left the ECHR. It doesn't matter if you said, we're going to have net migration of one. They're not going to do the job.
So it's culturally broken.
Yes.
Is it
the system is broken. And we need to fix the system, not make more promises.
Has this country gone woke, do you think? I think out of control. I mean, wokery is something which the left hate talking about woke, don't they? But
I don't like the word woke.
No, I know.
Because it makes it sound like a trivial thing when it is a very serious thing. In its worst extremes, it is people who want to unmake our world. And by that, I mean the settlement that Western liberal democracy, whether it's Enlightenment values or classic liberalism, whatever you want to call it, freedom of speech, freedom of association, and so on, all of these freedoms, which you haven't had all around the world, taken for granted here. And you get authoritarian behavior. You can't say this. You can't hang out with these people. It's not, I mean, even GB News has this problem.
Yeah.
Why are you advertising on GB News? You shouldn't do that. Who are these people? Who gives them the right to harass everybody? That's what I'm against. It is not a light, trivial thing.
No, it's not.
Lots of people add
woke is shorthand.
Things.
I wasn't belittling
yes,
it.
No,
woke is
but,
shorthand.
But
you're right to say all that.
Yes, it happens when people just think, I don't like this thing. This thing is woke. It's much more serious.
It's insidious. And where does it come from?
History. For example, you change the history so that it's something else. That is how worlds are unmade. You change the stories of a country and it becomes something different.
Or you look at one half of the story. I mean,
yes,
let's take slavery. That was a disgraceful period in this country's history. However, there was a period when we were ridding the world of slavery and we lost thousands of sailors doing that.
Even more complex than that. Slavery was everywhere.
Yes, it was.
It was everywhere. So the pretense that slavery was something that the US did and the UK did and everybody else was horrified by it, it is still going on today. So that's what a proper story is.
And when you say that stuff, I mean, the Labour MPs can't bear it. They can't bear you saying it.
No.
And you know why.
Yes, I do. Because I am a repudiation, just physically, personally, in how I look, what I do, what I say. I'm a repudiation of everything they believe in. That the world is split into oppressor groups and victim groups. And if you're a victim group, you're not allowed to go out and say that. And people are always telling me, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. You're not allowed to say this, and I don't listen. And that, going back to the point about when people say, she's not collegiate, it's because I don't do as I'm told.
And you fall out with journalists and the Dean White issue, which I was looking at, you're chuckling away.
I fall out with people who tell lies.
Yeah, well, let's not say she's telling lies or not. Let's not go into that. She's not here to defend herself. Let's not restart all that again.
Well, I don't mind if you criticise me and say, Kemi, I don't like this policy that you put in. That's fine. It's a terrible policy. But if you tell people that I've done something that I haven't done, I absolutely
hate that. And he's going to call out. Yes. And I think that is what people are responding to, maybe.
Yes, criticise me as much as you want, but don't tell lies.
Are you left or right wing?
I am very right wing, but I am also very pragmatic because a lot of people in my life are not right wing. So I
Like
always
who?
think,
Like who?
lots
Your
of
kids.
friends. Well,
Everyone's kids.
I think my kids are pretty right wing. I have a 4-year-old who thinks being vegetarian is a very bad thing.
What do you feed it red? What do you feed him? Is it him or her? Red
Ribs,
meat.
she loves bacon, sausages. So I asked her once. I said, I had another friend over. Tell them what your favorite food is, and she said, ribs, bacon, sausages, black pudding, lamb chops, and it was actually hysterical listening to her. But no,
What, is it your fault? You giving too much broccoli to her? Or...
No, we do give the vegetables.
You do, but they're not eaten.
They do get eaten actually, but because we put them. All of the meat on top, and you
so
chop them up,
through.
so they get some vegetables as they're eating all the meat. But no, I am very much on the right, but I am quite pragmatic because I understand if I look at the people in my life, whether it's friends, some family members, actually most of my family members are either apolitical or lightly Tory, not as right as I am, but mostly my friends. I know how certain things might sound if they're not said properly.
Yes.
So I never have gaffes or, apologizing for something that I said, oh, that's not what I meant. I never have to clarify because I think very carefully about what I say, make sure that we don't sound shrill, that we don't sound like the bad guys because we are the good guys.
Because you know where you come from and your politics.
Absolutely.
Is your party, I mean, again, whether left or right matters now, you're down to so few Tory MPs compared to in the past. I'm not sure left or right. It's the same debate.
Yes, it doesn't.
By the way,
and that's not. I'm not pitching. I am personally right wing, but I'm not pitching.
Yeah.
Or here's
people
the
say
right
the party is centrist or moderate left now, and I'm not sure.
It's not about left or right. It's about right or wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I always say.
I'm going to ask you the Gove question. Are you being run by Michael Gove?
Absolutely not.
And what does that even mean? But you know what they say about you. You know what they say about you.
Yes.
He's behind the scenes. He's pulling the strings. And
yes, people throw all sorts of stuff out. So on the one hand, they say, oh, she doesn't listen to anyone. She can't be controlled. Oh, but this person is controlling her. This person
because they don't allow you to be your own person, right?
Indeed.
It's slightly patronising, I think, about yourself.
Yeah, of course.
It's
very amusing, but I'm very much my own person. The person who's running my campaign is a former MP called Lee Rowley, who got elected at the same time.
He's your authentic Brexit voice, actually, wasn't he? He spoke out. I think
he was a Spartan. The hardcore No Deal group of people. He was one of them, as was Julia Lopez, who's also helping to run the campaign. So it's very much our campaign. It's not my campaign.
Is Gove advising or talking on the morning calls and helping you?
No. He's left politics. I think he's left politics.
I think he has,
So, but also, I disagreed with him on so many things.
Yes.
A lot of the stuff that he did around renters reforms, a lot of the things he did as Environment Secretary angered my farmers. My farmers hated many of those policies. I think we put the environment first rather than putting food production first and allowing farmers to help us create regulation. So, but I have my own views and I have my own mind.
Yeah, just looking back then on your time in government, why didn't you do more to stop record migration? You didn't know about it for a start, but when you did know about it, were you supporting measures to control
when I did know about
the loopholes, the family members?
Yes. So, for instance, the India trade deal, for instance, was never signed because what they were asking for on migration, I just thought was politically
when you're in the business department.
When I was doing business and trade. And it's interesting because what you start off with, you become a new MP and you listen to your constituents. I had lots of lobbying from constituents saying, we have these brilliant Americans, we have these people from Japan, they want to come in, Swiss people, they want to come in and work in our labs. We can't get them in because the migration system is too restrictive. So I actually, stood up in the House and said, well, we should be letting these, let's get a points migration system in. We should let these people in rather than loads of low-wage workers coming in from the EU who weren't doing the jobs that we needed. In the end, we got the worst of both worlds. We didn't get people from the EU, but we didn't get the low-wage people from the EU. We got low-wage people from all around the world, and we still didn't get the boffins coming in. And that's what I was asking for. So it's just a reminder that you can't assume that just because people say things, it'll get delivered. You need to look at the track record of people. What has this person actually delivered? What have they got done? I have a great record of delivery. Whether it was on signing trade deals, whether it was limiting migration in my role as trade minister, whether it was dealing with, the stuff that you were talking about, woke, I'm the only person who actually managed to drag Labour onto our lawn, saying there will be no self-ID, a man can't just say he's a woman, and so on. I won those battles. That's what it's about. It's about winning conservative battles.
You didn't win a battle to axe 3,000 EU laws, did you?
I did.
You got rid of 600.
4,000. No.
Well, how many did you axe?
I think about 4,000 in total.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So there's often a misunderstanding about what happened. We did it in stages. We said we're going to do these ones first, and then we're going to do more later. Some of them we need to change.
Yes.
So we have to keep them and change them, not just get rid of them.
They can't have a vacuum in any area of law. That's part of the problem.
So it is one of the biggest myths that people assume that we didn't get rid of them. We got rid of about 4,000.
Most were held within DEFRA, weren't they? I think, from memory.
Yes.
I thought the political naivety, if I can say it to you, let's not fall out over that. I thought that the problem was it was given to you to deal with the Rees-Mogg legacy, but the problem was held with DEFRA, and they let you down, I felt. But
so
that's me saying it.
So you needed to have a majority in Parliament to remove those laws. And many of the things that were there, we did not have a majority for. Removing environmental regulations, we had a big environmental lobby in the Conservative. Yeah, I mean, look at someone like Chris Skidmore. When he stood up in 2019, bringing in the net zero legislation, that was one of the that was one of the times when I said, why are we doing this? This is going to cost a lot of money. What are we doing? And he said, don't worry about it. It'll be fine.
You and Philip Hammond were saying that.
He
was on your side on
yes,
that.
but he was saying it in the background. He didn't say it on the floor of the House.
That's correct.
I said it on the floor of the House.
That's correct.
But also, you look at what happened to Chris Skidmore. He left Parliament, triggered a by-election, which we lost. And my understanding now is that he now works in the green sector. This is why people think that we do these things for our own benefits.
To enrich yourselves, and you're that other person.
And I hate that. We've got to stop that.
Yes.
We've got to stop that.
On Brexit, how did you vote on Brexit in 16?
Leave.
You leave?
Yes.
Yeah, so you're out there. Were you campaigning?
No. I was pregnant in 2016.
I'll let you off
then. Well, but also I was a civilian in 2016. I wasn't an MP. And I listened to all the arguments. And I thought, do you know what? There are two reasons why I'm going to vote leave. The first is that we've asked the EU for some minor changes. They've said no. If they're saying no now, they're going to be saying no forever. So why don't we allow them to go in their direction and we take a different direction? I believe in this country. I think we're confident. Let's so it was just a lower risk, a higher risk appetite, I should say, for us being able
Brexit
to.
is a power transfer back to elected people like yourselves. It's not about. What frustrates me about the Brexit debate, it's not Brexit's fault that it hasn't been done very well. For me, it's frankly a failure of the Tory party to do it properly.
And
deliver on the promise of it.
So this is the thing. The second reason why I voted was because of what Angela Merkel had done the year before, allowing
with the borders.
Yes, with the borders, creating 1 million EU citizens overnight. And I thought, well, if any country can create 1 million EU citizens, I don't like that. I want a sovereign national state. So I voted leave, but I also thought that there was a plan. And got into Parliament in 2017, no plan. I am an engineer. That's not how you do things. You don't just say, we're going to do this, and you buy something, and then you then work out how you're going to build on this thing that you've bought. You have to have a plan. And what I tried to do as Business and Trade Secretary was constantly talk about the benefits of Brexit. Look at what we're doing on exports. Look at what we're doing on trade deals. Look at how we're using our regulations to deliver.
Yeah.
And sometimes I thought I was the only person who still cared about Brexit, which is a shame.
Which is a shame, right. You mentioned net zero there. There's never been a single vote on net zero. It was passed through by an SI, by Theresa May, at the back end of her government in 2019. No MPs have ever voted on it. It basically amends the Climate Act from 2008. Is it time for a vote? Is it time for a referendum on that net zero? Or even a vote of MPs? I mean, something, because currently there's never been, for me, any democratic wrapper on the single biggest target this country is going towards.
Well, there was no vote because there was no
majority for it.
Not just that there was no majority for it, but it was effectively a stitch up. So sometimes you don't get a vote in advance when both parties agree, oh, we're going to do this. So there's no point having a vote on it because we both agree. But it is more than about having a vote. What are you voting for? I don't believe in just setting a random target.
Well, 2050 was the target.
Yes, when everybody, when half the people making the decision will be dead.
Yes.
That's not serious. You should be voting on a plan. we're going to do this. We're going to do this with heat pumps. We're going to do this with electric vehicles. Yes or no? Like, here's the plan. Rather than we're going to get to net zero by 2050. Don't worry about it. We'll figure it out. Especially as many of the people making these decisions they're not scientists. They don't understand the science. They don't know how to build anything. They're all lawyers or people who just do admin. That's not how you build.
And Rishi Sunak went towards that, didn't he, with his pragmatic approach, I think. In that speech in September last year.
Yes.
That was an attempt, I think, to do it.
Yes, it was. And
to his credit.
To his credit, I was one of the people who encouraged him to do that. I believe Claire Coutinho was as well, and she ended up becoming Energy Secretary afterwards. But it wasn't enough, and we didn't talk about it enough, why we were making those changes.
I'm going to have to get through some other areas quickly, because I've so enjoyed our chat. Quick ones, easy ones. Will you scrap Labour's ban on new grammar schools?
Yes, we shouldn't be having bans like that. I believe in freedom of school choice.
Yeah. Would you axe Labour's imposition of VAT on private schools?
Absolutely. Can I tell you why?
Yes, please.
Because I know a lady who's a hairdresser who's taking her daughter out of the secondary school they should be starting in this September because the 20% was too much. It's not fair.
Not fair.
Yeah.
Will you recognise stay-at-home mums and then tax system, family-friendly policies, which back in the day of Cameron's early years, he was keen on this stuff?
Yeah, family-friendly policies, yes. Exact details, I wouldn't say yes.
Transferable tax allowance.
I think we should definitely have a look at that. But we should be thinking about building stable families, and if that's what's going to work, I'll do so. But
it rewards stay-at-home mums as point of that.
Well, we certainly shouldn't be punishing them, which I think happens now.
Correct. Is inheritance tax justified?
To some extent, but not at these levels and percentages. We need to get growth back in the economy so we can bring taxes down. If people want to leave stuff to their children, they should be able to do so.
From taxed income,
again,
quite right.
It's another family policy.
Would you support a rise in capital gains tax? That's a big issue facing us maybe with the budget in October.
No. People who make money using capital gains take a lot of risk, and it's about rewarding risk. I believe in a society that can take risks. That's how you get innovation. That's how you get growth. If we tax risk, nobody will take any risks and nothing will happen.
Would you pull out of the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights? Would you pull out?
If that's what we needed to
control the borders.
To control borders, yes. But what I'm not doing is making a commitment on that, because even if we did that now, it wouldn't solve things, because the point I made about people in the Home Office. So promising the ECHR when there are loads of other things to do, I don't think is realistic.
Cultural problems.
Yes, there's serious cultural problems. Other countries who are in the ECHR are deporting more than us. Why can't we do that?
Be bolder, maybe.
Yep, change the system, change the culture.
Net migration. Would you bring back a cap? The one you fought the election on having a parliamentary cap. What is your cap if you had a cap on legal migration?
I've talked about the cap being, it's a fake argument, because if you have net migration, say 10,000, and you've got 10,000 terrorists coming in, that's no good. Yeah. It's about who you want to bring into the country, who's coming in. There's no point if good people are leaving and bad people are coming in and saying, oh, well, you've met the target. This is how people use targets to trick you. Don't fall for all this legal speak. Look at who we're bringing into the country.
It's easy understandable from us, isn't it?
Yes, it is, but it doesn't necessarily make the country better if you've got more bad people coming in. So I think there should be a cap. I'm not going into numbers. What's more important is who is coming into our country. And at the moment, we don't know. We've got to find out.
Is it racist to worry about immigration?
No, of course not. I'm worried about immigration. Lots of people who just come into the country are worried. Asylum seekers are worried about immigration because the people they're running from are also claiming asylum. Right. We should all be worried about it because it matters for our future.
How do you feel when you saw released lags swinging from champagne bottles outside Wandsworth Prison and other jails?
I thought that it was an awful sight.
What would you have done?
Well, I would have built more prisons.
But you didn't.
No.
So it's really on the Tory party this problem.
Partly because of COVID. I campaigned for a new prison in my constituency. It's that. Do you know what's happened with that site? It's holding asylum seekers. So all of it is linked. It's all linked. It's all linked. The system is broken, Chris.
Winter fuel allowance, bring it back?
Yes, but not exactly as it was before. I don't think millionaires should get the winter fuel allowance. But what Labour's done is taken it away from poor people or people who need it. That's wrong.
Do you see a political attack on pensioners here?
Yes.
Do you? I say that because on average, you're 63, you become a Tory, according to the voting. It's quite old.
We're going to bring that number down.
And then, pensioners voted Brexit. Is it kind of a punishment beating for pensioners?
I do think that there is some motivation there. That these aren't our voters, so we can penalise them. But also, it is Labour's foolishness. We have a Labour government that is very clueless. That winter fuel policy has been offered to every single government, and we've said no, every single leader. And this time, the officials waved it at Rachel Reeves, like, how about this? And she said yes. That's a very naive thing to do.
What do you make of Labour's plans to build in the Greenbelt?
I'm not sure that it's going to work. The Greenbelt is necessary. We do need to build more houses. We need to make sure that we're building in the right places. But again, I think that this is just punishing the people who they think did not vote for them.
You mentioned your family before. You worked in McDonald's. I mean, that'd be the first PM to ever worked in McDonald's, I think. I can't believe Rishi Sunak worked in McDonald's. What was that taught you about?
It was the first time that I interacted properly with people who didn't come from the sort of background that I came from. I grew up in a middle-class family, but I became working class when I was 16 working in McDonald's. And just understanding, how many people there were single parents and they were working there to make ends meet.
Because they have to work?
Yes, and there's a humility there as well. You had to wash toilets. There were no special cleaners coming in. You had to wash toilets. You had to flip burgers. You had to handle money. So it taught me a lot about just, work skills.
We're privileged. Our jobs are privileged, I think, talking about ideas and thoughts. But a lot of people's jobs are like that.
Yeah.
And it's how you connect with that.
Yeah, and it wasn't a weekend job either. I was doing it so that I could eat.
Yes, all right. Quickly for the future, I'm getting waved at by your colleagues here because you're so busy, your campaign to be Tory leader. Bring back Boris, yes or no?
If he wants to come back, I think that a constituency party would be glad to have him. We need to make sure
will you help find one if he wants to get back?
That's not my job. We are saying that we're no longer doing the imposition of candidates. That's something I believe in strongly. Lots of people think there have been stitch-ups, and I don't want to be accused of that. It's got to start from the ground up, with members doing the choosing.
Elected chairman?
No, I don't think that's a good idea.
Why not?
Well, because we already have people that the party elects to the party board.
Who the party ignores.
Exactly.
The board's unwieldy. It's unwieldy.
Yes. But I also think that we need to look at the problem first, not just have a new solution. The problem is that members feel disengaged. Let's engage them.
How would he beat reform? 4 million voters went there, majority Tory, I would say.
By being real conservatives.
You draw them back.
Yes, indeed.
You draw them towards you. How do you beat Farage, particularly him? You're a broad church. Your current leader says, Rishi Sunak.
Well, we are a broad church, but I wouldn't invite Keir Starmer into our party, and he's also, been successful. It's not about trying to game the system and do deals. It's about being the very best version of ourselves. And I think one of the mistakes we made was making reform voters think that they were not our people. They are our people.
Yeah.
Many of the people who voted reform were lifelong Tory voters. And I think one of the moments that really created that impression was when we removed the whip from Lee Anderson. I think that was a mistake. I thought it was a mistake. I told the chief whip, do not do this. This is a bad decision.
They backed him into a corner. I was watching it in real time.
Yeah, I think that was a huge mistake, and that lit the touch paper. Basically, us saying, we don't want these kind of people. We need to get them
the
back.
red wall in old language. Right. Is Nigel Farage a Tory?
I think that he is a disruptor.
Yeah.
But he has said that he wants to destroy the Conservative Party. So I think that's probably a no.
How would you feel if you win?
How would he feel?
How will you feel if you win?
How will I feel?
Yeah, this race. It's the race of your life.
I'd feel a heavy weight of responsibility. There'd probably be momentary elation. Politics is about momentary highs. Oh, I've won. And then, lots of grind. I would be elated if I won. A lot of people have put their hope in me. A lot of people have put their money behind my campaign. I can't let them down. I can't let all those volunteers down. All of the people in the Renewal 2030 group. That's what my campaign is called. This would be a huge responsibility.
It'd be a statement by the party, wouldn't it?
Yes, but I would make them proud if I got it.
Well, there we go. Listen, Kemi Badenoch, you're a busy person, campaigning to be Tory leader. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Chris.
On Chopper's Political Podcast. I tweet at Christopher Hope on X. Email me what you think of what Kemi had to say, chopper@gbnews.uk. If you enjoyed this podcast, Kemi has, please tell your friends. If you really enjoyed it, please leave a 5-star rating and a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and elsewhere to help other people to find it. Thank you to the brilliant team of GB News colleagues behind this podcast: Mick Booker, Jeff Marsh, Rebecca Nunes, George McMillan and Keith Bays. But most importantly of all, again, thank you for listening wherever you are in the country. If you want more Chopper in your life, Kemi does, everyone else does, I'm sure. Catch me during the week on GB News, popping up with analysis and stories for our viewers and listeners, and at midday on Wednesdays when Parliament sits for PMQs Live. And keep up to date with our best political reporting on our website, gbnews.com. Until next time, though, from me and Kemi, cheerio!